Hey everybody, Polka Dad here, here with another study video. This video is a video where I'm going to be looking at the program GTO Plus. So I'm just starting to kind of get into using this program. It's a great program. First of all, if you're not familiar with GTO Plus is, it's a game theory optimal program. And, obviously, I think, in my opinion, I think you can play both GTO and exploitative styles based on the situation, based on opponent. But it is kind of fun and interesting to take a look at some of the optimal ways to play certain hands, especially with different bet sizes. So what I did is I took this particular hand here, and I am basing this particular video in this particular example based on this particular hand. It was just a random hand I selected. I wanted to select a hand where I was in the button and the big blind called. So first, let me just show you how this hand played out, and then we're going to take a look at GTO Plus and take a look and see if our line was optimal, and also just what other hands we should be doing things with. So I think you might find this video pretty interesting. So let me just show you the hand real quick. This hand was played back in May, NL, and it was played at NL 50. So of course, as you can see, I can raise here. We have a nut flush draw, and we also have top pair. So our opponent checks, we bet. Our opponent then raises us, and we call it, and we hit the nut flush here in the turn. Our opponent now bets into us about 3/4 pot. I give it take a little bit, and we decide to shove him all in, and he calls it. And 9 comes out, and turns out that we end up losing to a full house on the river. Okay, so now what we want to just play around with here is GTO Plus, and just take a look at some of the different scenarios. So I'll tell you how I set things up as we go along here. First of all, I'll just show you the ranges here. This right here is our opening range from the button. And this is what I have as the big blinds cold call range versus our button open. So what we are assuming here first, and the way I set this tree up, is that the big blind is going to check 100% of his range. And, for the most part, unless you're playing a recreational player, that's what you're going to see happen. So, by the way, in case you are curious, of course, I obviously set this all up before this video. It took roughly about, I'd say about 6 or 7 minutes to run the entire tree, maybe even a little bit longer. I'm not sure. I was doing other things. Plus, I was running it on a mode where I was able to do other things on my computer and not just have this run. So it ran a little bit slower. Plus, I did the largest possible. I made it so that it would run all the possibilities for each street as well, just to save myself some time. And I think it's definitely the right way to go. In fact, if you're familiar with GTO, if you're not familiar with GTO Plus, there are some amazing videos on it, which I think are done by Adam Wheeler. If you just Google GTO Plus into YouTube, or if you just search YouTube GTO Plus. And the cool thing is with GTO Plus is it comes with Card Runners EV. So if you have Card Runners EV, you have GTO Plus, and you can get a license for GTO Plus. And vice versa, if you have a license for GTO Plus, then you also have a license for Card Runners EV. And these are great programs to analyze different spots and just to analyze hands. But I think the GTO stuff is great more for analyzing spots, and especially the different possibilities of what you can do with different types of hands in your range. So anyway, let's just break this one down now. So obviously, the big blind would check here. And I set myself up with 3 different options. Obviously, there's always the option of checking. Then I put here a 2/3 pot bet size and also an overbet size, which is something I don't normally ever do. So that's why I wanted to actually put an overbet size in here to kind of understand, get a better perspective for me on what kind of hands maybe I should be overbetting. Now, if you look at the grid right here, you're going to see 3 different colors. The blue color is for an overbet. So this is all based on big blinds, which is the way I set this up. This would be a bet of 7.8 big blinds. then the pink here is a bet of 4.29 big blinds, and obviously the green here is a check. So if you look here at this particular chart, we can see that for the most part we are going to be checking a lot. We're not going to be overbetting a lot. In fact, I can just show you right here, if I click on this button here, bet 7.8, this is going to show which hands we would be overbetting with. And even still, GTO Plus suggests that most of these hands we're just going to put a normal bet size of 66%, 2/3 pot. But there are times that we can overbet with a set of aces here, with sets of 9, sets of 6s, and then some of the ace high hearts, and some of the nut flushes as well here, especially the nut flushes that can also make straights as well. Like the ace jack here, let's just see, the ace jack really wouldn't make a straight, but I think there's some blocker effects to the jack being there, which helps us here, because it would cancel out any potential nut straights that our opponent could possibly have, which I think is why this hand would be there. Or it just could be the Broadway effect too of king, queen, jack, 10. Then you have some other, but these hands are here, but of course what you can see with these percentages here is this is the optimal percentage for how many times, 6.9% of the time we should overbet here. 93.1% of the time we should just put out the 66% pot size bet here, and never be checking in this spot. So I think this is pretty interesting that for the most part in this spot we just are really going to be betting the bet size of 2/3 pot bet here, which is 4.29. So let's just take a look real quick. If we look at the entire decision here, and just look at each type of hand. Now again, we're in position here, so we're never checking. We're never checking sets here, right? We're just pretty much betting our sets, which makes a lot of sense here. So there's no checks, no bets. Even the pocket aces here, we want to bet those. Our 2-pair hands. Now you can take a look at the ace-6 here. The ace-6, it actually suggests that we should be checking the ace-6 here. So we'd be betting our better 2-pair, but not our lower 2-pair. So that's interesting. But 9-6 we would be betting. And I think 9-6 is definitely a lot more vulnerable, so I definitely agree that 9-6 should be bet here. The ace-6, I can't say I entirely understand. Now, if we take a look at the EV, so if I press F3 on my keyboard, I can take a look at EV. The EV between betting and checking is exactly the same, 6.47. So, I mean, I guess it just doesn't really matter. You could do either or here. Now, if we look at top pair, you can see that here with top pair, we're going to do a lot more checking. Including, you can see the ace-4, which we have in this particular hand. GTO suggests that we should actually be checking 71% of the time here. Now, there are times that we could definitely bet, but it's a hand that we can also just check back with as well. I guess I could kind of understand that because the 4 is kind of weak, and this is probably a hand that maybe we want to be able to have in our in-position checking range here. And as you can see here, of course, more so, we definitely want to be betting our top pairs here that are also the nut flush draws. But the non-nut flush draws, we'd be looking to be checking more often, which I think is quite interesting. Same thing here with the offsuit hands, we'd be looking to be checking more often here, even in position, even on a board that is a little bit scary because of the fact that we don't have any hearts. Now, these hands here, at least we have an ace heart, so we do have a heart blocker, which is good. But, as you can see, I have the ace jack offsuits that don't include a heart. And, we're looking to bet those less. So, I mean, it could go either way. Me personally, in position, I don't really see a situation where I'm ever checking these. I think exploitatively, I just would rather bet these hands here. You know, because of the fact that you have the hearts out there. I mean, maybe holding back. I can see holding back the ace of heart hands, but the hands that don't have an ace of heart or at least one heart, I'm gonna have a better time, like an easier time checking back those particular hands. But exploitatively with the top pair, I think I'd rather just bet those hands there, not, you know, and not check them. In fact, let's just take a look here. The EV, I mean, obviously, as you can see, the EV is just, it's not huge. 5 point, for instance, like the ace 8, the ace of hearts and 8 of clubs is 5.28% EV for betting and 5.34 EV for checking. So it's not that different. It's not that off. So I think that's interesting, but I think I would just definitely play it differently. But this is the GTO style: is ace with a weaker kicker, you're gonna just check back. And I could see the merit of that also, because I mean, look, if we're betting all of our aces, then is that really good too? Because then it makes us pretty easy to read as well if we are betting all of our aces and not holding any aces back. So then I can see some merit here of these particular aces being checked back. But I also feel like these are just kind of vulnerable as well. But I could definitely see the merit of it. So that's top pair. Pocket pair below top pair. Checking all of these makes a lot of sense. Again, I feel like you could do either or. As you can see in terms of the EV here, it is, especially here for the kings, a little more plus EV to check, where it gets a lot closer with the queens. Now these are the kings with the hearts, of course. But again, it's very, very close. It's very close. And in fact, you can see here, like the hands like the jacks, which are a little bit more vulnerable, and the tens, which are a little more vulnerable. You can bet those there, where maybe the kings really aren't vulnerable. So the kings you can actually just check back. And I think that's really the idea with the kings. The kings are not vulnerable here. We can check them back, no problem, and feel okay about it. Same thing with the queens. These particular jacks here, without the hearts, different story. And I think also the part of that here is if we check these back, we can then induce a bluff because we don't have any hearts, so we're not blocking any of their bluffs. And I think that also plays into it, where maybe this makes a better check back here. So, like when you think about it that way, okay, it makes a little more sense. Okay, when we don't have the hearts, so then, you know, our opponent, we check this back, and our opponent's on a draw, he can bet the he can bluff the turn. So now what we want to do is, so we ended up doing a half pot bet here. So I didn't even do a 2/3 pot bet. I did a half pot bet. So for the sake of this particular example, I'm just going to choose the. Oh, I didn't look at some of the other cards. I apologize. What else we got? Let's breeze these real quick. Middle pairs here. As you can see, we're betting some of them, and we're checking some of them. So we're betting like the king 9, the queen 9. We can bet here, especially the suited hands, the backdoor draws, more so. So you can take a look at the backdoor draws. We'd be betting here with the 9, which actually makes a lot of sense also. A little bit less with the non-draws. But, you know, those hands are vulnerable. So, you know, we can bet these, but they're not as vulnerable. But we can bet these here. Jack 9, again, the backdoor flush draw a little bit more so. How about the flush draws? So the flush draws, so this is interesting. So the queen jack and the queen tens we'd be looking to bet here, but the kings we'd be looking to check more so here. I wish I could tell you why, but I don't really understand it. I'm not really sure I understand. I guess we're checking back here because we can still make a bunch of straights as well. I mean, we're betting here. We're betting here to make a bunch of straights as well. But king queen, we have less straights. The kings we have less straights. With the queens we have more straights because the queens can turn into open enders, which could give me a reason why logically we may want to bet these here. The same thing with the jack 10. The jack 10 we can improve to a straight draw. These we can improve to straight draws. And we can improve the straight draws here too, but it's a little more limited. So the queen, king queen with the ace, we still need a 10, where queen jack we can get a king or we can get a 10. And we have two different cards that can make us a straight. Now, queen 10 would still need a jack and a king. So the queen 10 I'm not 100%. Queen 10 I'm not as sure on. Because these hands too, they have flush draws and they can improve to straight draws. So I guess I kind of understand that. Jack 10, I mean, makes a lot of sense because an 8 can come out and a queen can come out, which will improve that hand. So that makes some sense there. 8 jack. I think 8 jack, the issue with 8 jack is, like, if a 7 comes out, we still need a 10, so it's not as strong as, say, like a queen jack would be, or a jack 10 would be. I'm just trying to figure this out, like, as I go. I'm no expert on this, of course. So, 8-7 here is a hand, definitely enough flush draw that we would definitely think about over betting, which makes a lot of sense. OESCs, we don't have many, so it's pretty mixed between what we'd be doing with the 8-7s. I think more so, obviously, we're more focused on betting the hands with hearts in them, the offsuit and the suited, of course. Gut shots here, 8-10. 10-7, these hands, and backdoor flush draws, mostly backdoor flush draws of checks. So anyway, we're going to bet here, and our opponent raises. So what kind of hands, let's just take a look specifically at what kind of hands our opponent is raising with here, since that's what they did. So they would be raising with hands like sets, 2 pairs here, so they're ace-9s. Some of their ace-6s too. I guess they probably only have a couple combos of ace-6. Notice, by the way, they only have sets of 9s and 6s because they were the caller, so they wouldn't have sets of aces. Their top pair hands, for the most part, they're not raising these top pair hands. They're raising their 2 pair, and even most of their 2 pairs are not raising. But, I mean, we know that they raised here, so sets, 2 pairs, some top pairs. The only middle pairs that they're possibly looking at is like the jack 9 with the backdoor flush draw type hands. Let's see, yeah, I like to do it this way. There you go. This makes it a little bit better, a little bit easier to look at. So these types of hands that they may raise middle pair type hands. Obviously, you break it down a little bit further. Backdoor flush draws. A6, of course, and because these can also improve to straight draws as well. So I think it's probably unlikely that at microstation you see these kind of hands raised like that. So it is interesting. But I mean, what I think is most of the time you're going to get sets, two pairs, some flush draws. Now, interestingly enough, the optimal solution here. Let's go back to the optimal solution here for the entire decision on flush draws is they would be calling most of their flush draws, including their nut flush draws. Again, the 8-6 being, of course, the big one because of the fact that this is a nut flush draw. So that is interesting. So they raise us, and now we have some options. We can raise or call. We can raise and shove all in, or we can call here. Now first, let's take a look at our ace-4 suited hand. So ace-4 suited, the optimal play here is to call, which is what we did. What hands would we be shoving all in with? Well, the big one, of course, is going to be the set of aces here, and I think that's pretty logical. You know, that's going to be the big one. Other ones we could be doing this with here, the nines, although it's still suggesting for the most part we call with the nines and we don't shove all in with the nines. The big one shoving all in is going to be the aces here. And then the sixes, it just becomes like a clear call and not a shove, which makes sense because, you know, our opponent could have the nines there. Now for the two pair hands, let's lock in. Okay. We locked. Okay. So ace nine here for the most part. So all these hands, for the most part, we just would want to be calling here. What hands would we be folding? Some top pair hands we'd be folding. So let's see. You can see them briefly here. I like this way. Hey, I like this one. Hold on 100%. Just for this is actually perfect. So sometimes you could be folding the top pair hands that don't have any implied odds, so no backdoor equity. Just so you see, like here, ace 10, we can be folding the diamonds and the spades, but not the hearts. Same thing with all of these here. Same thing here. Anything that doesn't have a heart, we could be folding to a raise, which makes sense. It's hard. That's hard to do, but it makes sense. I mean, look at the EV here. The EV is very small on those hands, 0.17, 0.12, 0.41. So I think it makes sense to actually fold these hands out. Let's see with the middle pairs. How about the middle pairs? The king nine suited. So again, you know, hands that don't have any implied odds at all would be folding hands. So we can call the king nine of clubs as the backdoor flush draw. These backdoor flush draw 10-9 makes sense. Any hands with hearts. Here the clubs obviously aren't going to be as appetizing because we don't have any draws there. So really the hands we'd be calling with are the hands with hearts. Obviously 9-8 clubs, backdoor flush draw, we'd want to call those hands. So the middle pairs that have some kind of implied odds is what we're looking at. The 9-8, interestingly enough, actually, if you look at the percentages, 9-8 with a heart should be a shove. 9-8 offsuit. That is quite interesting. Why do we think that is? That I'm not entirely sure on why it is. If you know the answer to that, please post in the comments below. But I'm not really sure why 9-8 off would be a shove here. I think that's interesting. Trying to think about this. Let's see. Well, I think part of the reason is our opponent can't have 7-8 of hearts here because we have the 8 of hearts. So they wouldn't be shoving with a nut flush draw. So why would we be raising still? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly. This is like beyond my comprehension of why we're raising 9-8 suited here. And not 9-8 offsuit. I guess this is just like as a bluff. I'm guessing this is just a bluff. That we'd want to shove here as a bluff with 9-8, with having the 8 of hearts. So we're blocking some of his flush draws here. I'm guessing is the reason. You know, it's like we're blocking hands like 8-7 suited, obviously. I'm guessing this is more for a bluff than it would be for, obviously, any other reason. That makes the most sense there. You know, hands like Queen 9. I mean, we're mostly folding these hands here, of course. Sometimes we're shoving them. Again, I guess as a bluff here. You know, we have a pair. We have no hearts. So, you know, we can get like a flush draw, maybe like a nut flush draw, maybe. Well, we wouldn't want a nut flush draw, but a non-nut flush draw to call here would kind of seems like the logic to me on why we'd want to do something like that. Other than that, obviously there's a lot of non-made hands we'd be folding. Looks like all of our flush draws we're going to call. So we're not going to fold any of our flush draws here to this raise. And OESDs, same thing. I mean, it's only the 8-7, of course. We don't have many of them. Gut shots, the 10-8, which makes sense. The ones that we would be folding are the 8-5, which of course we have the bottom end of the straight. The 7-5, interestingly enough, is kind of mixed. It's leaning towards just calling all of them, though. And I think the reason for that is because if an 8 comes out, like we're okay there, as opposed to an 8-5 comes out, you know, where if right here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, if a, you know, I guess that the 8-5 is not, well, the 8-5 is just not as strong, I believe, because we have the butt end of the straight here, where the 7, I guess, is a little bit stronger. Because if an 8 comes out, I'm not really sure about that one either. I apologize, this video is terrible, but I'm trying to figure things out, and there's something I don't quite understand. If you know, please feel free to post below. Alright, so anyway, in the case here, we do call, and the turn comes a 3 of hearts. So now, our opponent is betting rarely here. Let me just update this. I think this should still stay the same though. So they actually have him, even though we called, we have him actually checking his entire range again. So the question now becomes, we have 3 different bet sizes here. We have an underbet, we have a 3/4 pot bet. I think I set up a 3/4 pot. And we have an overbet here. So our ace-4 suited is specifically slated for an overbet. So this particular hand here, he checks to us. We just want to overbet this one 100% of the time. Now in this particular hand, he bet into us, and then we shoved. But the ace-4, when he checks to us, we would just want to overbet here. So let's just say hypothetically, okay, we overbet here. We're overbetting with our, like, all of our flushes. when he checks to us. Our sets. Two pair is a little bit different. The two pair hands. The two pair hands, actually, if you look at the two pair hands, this is interesting because two pair hands, we're actually underbetting the ace nines here. The ace sixes, we're still checking the ace sixes here, except for the ace six with the six of clubs, which I think is, which is interesting. That we could either overbet or check here. I think that's quite interesting. All the sets, let's see, all the sets, overbet, overbet, overbet. 9-9. 9-9, we're actually checking back here. I guess we can induce a, like, we can induce a bluff on the, river here. I must have messed something up here for the villain to be betting. I could have swore I set up for a donk bet percentage. Pretty sure I did. Let's see, when I click on build tree just real quick. Yeah, I did. I set up a donk bet percentage. I'm not sure why that didn't come out correctly. That he still checks even after he raises. He doesn't want to continue betting. So, and sixes again would be checking. So really this aces here. We're looking to like throw out a big overbet here. The pot size is 32.24. We're betting 35.46. The underbets, what about the underbets now? Let's see. Two pairs, like we said, we have some underbets like with the ace nine. We're underbetting there. What about top pair? Top pair is just like a complete mix. You do like a little bit of everything with ace queen here, ace king. There's no right answer. It's just a little bit of everything. But then when we get to the offsuit hands, offsuit ace highs with all the hearts, we're checking most of them here. It's interesting. So the flushes, just take a quick look at the flushes here. Ace 5. So this is interesting. Ace 5 suited. Ace 5 suited. We have a mix, but we actually have an underbet here with ace 5. As opposed to the ace 4 that we are overbetting. Ace 2 we are overbetting, but ace 5 I'm not really sure of either why we'd be underbetting this more. I think that's interesting. Underbetting ace 5 more. Ace 4 shove, ace 2 shove. Well, not shove, but overbet. It is interesting. That's why GTO is crazy, because it's like my brain is not powerful enough to understand why we'd be doing some of these things and why ace 4 and ace 2 is a better overbet, where ace 5 is actually a better underbet here. So I do definitely think that is interesting. So, I mean, just looking through this here, like ace 8 underbet, ace 7 underbet, king 7 overbet, king 7. I mean, that is blocker effects with the straights. But I mean, what do we care about straights right now? We have a flush, right? But he can't have like a straight flush. But I mean, he can't have a straight flush here either. So here we're underbetting. I guess here we're overbetting because our flush might be. This is what I'm going to go with here for these kings here. 2, 4, 8, 7. We're overbetting here almost as a way for protection also. because he could have an ace of hearts here. And we still could get sucked out on the river here if another heart comes out, and our king's no good. In fact, I mean, that recently happened to me. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Is we would want to, we can overbet these here. I'm really curious about the ace five of hearts. Why is the ace five of hearts here? Why are we underbetting this? That's the one thing I'm really curious about here. This is very interesting. OESTs, for the most part, I mean, we could overbet them. Again, they're mixed, leaning towards overbetting the OESDs, which I think makes sense here, especially with the hearts. But with the 7 of hearts, with the 8 of hearts, it's a little bit different. 8 of hearts would be underbetting. Okay. Welcome to the ultra confusing GTO Plus video. I'm curious to see what kind of feedback I get in this video. People are going to probably be like, yeah, you don't even know what you're doing. Like, alright, I'm just trying to figure this out. Kind of a noob. And I do think it's interesting. And I think the more of these that I look at, the more I'll quite understand it. But yeah, it's definitely confusing. Alright, so in this situation here, okay, let's just say that we overbet. We have our ace 4. We decide to overbet. And now our opponent has 9s. Now, GTO says 9s. Oh, no, he has 6. Right, he has 6s. So 6s say, they say call or fold. Right? Because what are they looking to raise with here? They're not raising much at all here. So obviously, as we know, this now doesn't really pertain much to the hand we looked at, because they were checking 100% of the time. I don't know what edit mode is. What is edit mode? We'll go on the fly here. I don't know what edit mode is. All right. I was like, I want there to be a way that they're actually betting here. It's like, why are they checking everything? I want them to bet this. Just bet it, darn it. Right click, bet. Alright, anyway. Because they bet 0% of their range. Alright, so we bet. So they would be calling with most of their range here, as we can tell. There's some things they'd be folding. Some 2-pair hands. Which makes sense. The hands that don't have a heart. Makes a lot of sense here. So if they check to us, which I mean they've raised, so. And they're really not raising much at all. So they're folding most of their range here, by the way, when we overbet. Just curious. Okay, let's say we didn't overbet, and we just threw out a 2/3 pot size bet, which by the way doesn't include ace 4. Then they're calling 46% and they're folding 53%. And on the other hand, if we are underbetting here, they're actually raising more. They're calling more and they're folding less. Which makes a lot of sense, because now they're getting better odds to call. So that's interesting, the difference between overbetting. So of course when we overbet, they're only calling 38%. And their calls are mostly flushes and sets and some 2 pairs. And they're not flush draws. You can see they're calling there too. So, for the fun of it, even though this doesn't happen, it's actually kind of interesting. We can actually take a look at something here. I think if I click on this here and I do a river report, what is this? Oh, this is what I want to see. Hang on. Sorry. Noob. Noob! Wait, actually, I think yeah, okay. What I want to see is this, yeah, for player 2. So for player 2, this here is showing you what is the best cards we want to see on, based on our range. What are the cards we want to see on the river, and what cards we don't want to see on the river. So as you can see, 9s we don't want to see, and that is what of course came out on the river, was a 9 of spades. Obviously we don't want to see aces and ace of hearts come out. That'd be terrible for us. And ace again pairs the board. Anything that's going to pair the board obviously is not going to be good here. Same thing, 3s pair the board. These are the worst hands for us, right? Any heart comes out, not that big of a deal. And these other hands here, kind of neutral. 7 comes out. These 7s are fine. But as you can see, a 6 comes out, a 3 comes out, a 9 comes out, an ace comes out, because obviously these make full houses for our opponent. So I'm curious, just for the fun of it, because we're playing around, we're having a good time. 9 of spades. We run this. And now our opponent is going to bet or check. And I would assume with their 6s, they're going to bet. And yes, they do. So interesting. Now, what do they have? I'm just going to take a look on the other screen here. The combo they had. They had spades and clubs. Yeah. So, okay, for the fun of it now, because this video is getting super long, they bet, right? And we have the option to just shove, call, or fold. And our ace-4, we would just be calling. For the most part, we would just be calling and we wouldn't be shoving. That is quite interesting as well. That is quite interesting as well. I mean, oh, well, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because we wouldn't be shoving because of all the full houses that he could have. Because he's got quads, full houses, and flushes, and top pairs. All he has left in his range. So, yeah, we beat all of his flushes, but look, he's got a ton of full houses. 30% of his range is full houses. 15% of his range is quads. So it makes sense here that we would we'd only be shoving full houses, ace-9, ace-ace, of course. So I do think that is interesting. Quads, we could have 9s. Okay, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So we would definitely be calling ace-4 suited here. Now, if he had checked, we're betting, what are we betting here? So we're betting our ace-4 suited. If he checks, again, we're betting our ace-4 suited here. We're betting our ace-4 suited, we're betting our ace-2 suited. We are checking back, I really, what is the problem with ace-5? Ace-7, ace-8, all these, we're checking back these nut flushes. Why? If you know the reason on what's wrong with ace-5, ace-7, 8, please tell me. I'm going to probably title this video like a noobs, GTO plus, I should call this video GTO plus through the eyes, through an untrained eye. GTO plus through an untrained eye. That's it. That's the title of this video. Because I'm not really sure I understand. So anyway, yeah, obviously he'll bet, and we'll call, and that's the end of the hand, really, and we lose. But that's okay. Ace-4 suited, by the way. The equity here, interesting, right? The equity, you can tell, I can't lock in ace-4 suited, but the equity you can tell here is 28%. Interesting. But I think it's still plus EV. Yeah, it's still plus EV, of course. course, 7.21, but our equity is not very good here to call, but obviously we're going to call. We're not going to fold a nut flush, which just kind of sucks with this one. So anyway, yeah, so that's what this video we call GTO Plus from an untrained eye. Yeah, I think that works. Anyway, I appreciate you watching the video. If you like this video, do me a favor, please subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video on GTO Plus. I will work on this more and try to understand it more, and my brain hurts a little bit after these 45 minutes of video, but hey, look, it's alright. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Also check out my Twitch channel as well if you can. And until next time, Polkadad.